Hi, I've done this before, with grass types, so the most logical step was to choose one of the super effective types. I had to choose between 5 of them, and navigate my way through their ups and downs. I'm just kidding, I picked the type from the comments, so feel free to submit more under this video as well. And while you're there, you might as well like the video, and if you're generous enough, you could click the weird red button that says subscribe, but who am I to tell you? The poison type is one of my favorites, and since the biggest amount of them are from Kanto, I chose LeafGreen for the challenge. Since you can already see me beat Fire Red with a single poison type if you click on the card in the right corner. And look, there are already 2 poison types on the screen. Another one as the box art, and Oak is a fan of them too! I wanted to name my rival Alkaline, but since that doesn't fit, I chose Alkali, because that's the life he's living. Then I pick my first acidic comrade and name her Chlorine. She sweeps through Charmander without breaking a sweat. And after we make it to Verdian Forest, a small friend-shaped wiener joins the journey. He gets the name Boron, before evolving into a peanut? Well, since I heard Brock has a nut allergy, I take on him next. I wanted to poison the Geodude before switching to get some chip. But after seeing the damage from Tackle, I let Chlorine Wine Whip Geodude as well as the only non-poison type snake in this region. I beat a bug catcher and the pistachio evolves into a wasp with a B in its name. I steal a purple rabbit named Carbon and a bat named Iodine, as well as a moonstone for later. I almost wiped to a scientist because I was too lazy to heal. But thankfully Bulbasaur saves us from the first tragedy and gets an evolution out of it. Then I make my way east from Cerulean City to catch nothing because Ekans is Fire Red exclusive. Boron learns Twin Needle and creates the Fault and Misty's stars. And Carbon catches rabies. I sweep through Alkali's Pidgeotto, heal from his Abra, stomp the purple thing on the ground just like Draymond Green, and kick the lizard for a clean victory. Iodine evolves and we can catch Bellsprout named Mary. Sorry, that's the wrong script again. Where was I? Oh, right. I helped Bill out of his Clefairy fursuit and evolved Bellsprout into Weepinbell, before taking on Alkali once again. His team got buffed with a few evolutions since last time, so I have to play more optimally. His lead is still Pidgeotto, so I slow it down with Beedrill, before switching into Nidorino on another Scent attack. Quick Attack then procs Nidorino's poison point, and he suffers from the Woodhouse syndrome.
I'll rub sand in your dead little eyes.
So Iodine tags in, just for a Quick Attack pivot, and Carbon comes back out on a gust. Pidgeotto hits another Quick Attack as Double Kick brings him to red. Iodine joins back on the fun, and leeches the last bits of Pidgeotto's power, bringing Kadabra on the field. He outspeeds her and bites for 3/4 of her HP. Kadabra disables Bite and gets astonished in return after Iodine tanks in confusion. Raticate got kicked a bit too hard and Charmeleon wanted to avenge him, almost killing Carbon in the process. So Iodine flew in and brought him to red before just barely surviving Ember and biting one last time. I touched an old man for profit, learned Cut onto my HM slave, and hit Carbon with a piece of stone a few times so he could finally wear number 6. I also made him learn Dig and Rock Tomb, because there's no way I will regret that anytime soon. Oh yeah, it's this puzzle again, I'm gonna fucking... And now we're fighting Surge, cool. Dig, dig, diggity dig, and now we have 3 badges. After making it through Rock Tunnel, I got to Celadon where I buy a Leaf Stone for Weepinbell, before making it through the Rocket Hideout and straight to Giovanni, where nothing bad happens. He leads with Onyx, so Sulfur smashes him with a Wine Whip, and the same with Rhyhorn. Kangaskhan enters, I stay in and go for Sunspore as she just Tail Whips. Carbon gets switched in on another Tail Whip, and I decide to dig, which doesn't do anything, as Kangaskhan crits Bite the turn after. I chip some more with Horn Attack, and Kangaskhan misses Mega Punch. I don't bother switching, and as I leer at her, the ferocious mother hits a Mega Punch, and kills Carbon. I definitely knew that would happen and did it for content. Golbat comes in and is able to clean the fight with 2 wing attacks, thanks to paralysis. I bury Nidoking in the box and put all the blame on another bunch of pixels on screen. You know, like a mentally sane person would do. In other words, I didn't want to use that many grass types in this challenge, and Venusaur is insanely good for this type of run, so I made it harder on myself by boxing it as soon as I don't need it for HMs. Then, I made it to Erika. She leads with Victory Bell, and I lead Boron. Twin Needle doesn't really do a lot, but Stun Spore misses. I'm lucky enough to get a crit on one of the hits, as Acid does barely any damage. Erika is a coward, so she heals. After getting paralyzed, Boron is eventually able to knock the first Pokemon down, sending the shiny version of a Destiny Knot out next. Twin Needle does huge damage here, and is even able to poison the poor Jelly ready to tango, but her Ingrain saves her from death, and Erika throws a full heal out the window. Vileplume is out last, but since she paid about the same amount of attention as I do in Calculus, she goes for the useless Acid. But Twin Needle is a slow chip as well, so I switch into Iodine, and Wing Attack is just shy of a knockout. Vileplume paralyzes, and then hits a huge 9 HP of damage, before getting munched on. I meet Alkali in the Pokemon Tower, which goes about the same way as always, even despite him having Gyarados on the team this time, since Sulfur is able to out-heal him with Erika's Giga Drain. Then I catch a Ghastly named Oxygen. Would be nice to have one like, I don't know, in the Rocket Hideout. I evolve her into Haunter, which is about as far as she goes. Speaking of going, I also go catch a Venonat and evolve it into Venomoth right away. I get my Safari Zone encounter where I get Nidoran, the other one, you know, the one that's not dead yet. Of course, it's a Safari Zone encounter, meaning it probably runs anyway. Or not, okay. I take a relaxing bike ride and beat my way through the Cobra Kai dojo, just to flex my Golbat before he inevitably evolves. Huh? Oh, right, the National Dex. Well, fuck me, I guess. At least Nidoran evolves into Nidorina, and with the help of the second Moonstone from the same place her king died, she promotes to a queen. There's another rival fight. Can this dude just chill? He leads with a Karen Chicken, so I lead with Fluorine for a free Stun Spore, as Pidgeot just goes for Feather Dance. Then I bring Nidoqueen out on a full Para turn, and Tail Whip on a Wing Attack turn. And then again on another Wing Attack. Double Kick brings Pidgeot almost to half, and Nidoqueen gets hit by another Wing Attack. Nidoqueen is finally able to kick the bird hard enough so it drops its eggs, which Fluorine is completely ready for. Confusion takes a decent chunk, but Leech Life heals her back as Execute misses Stun Spore. The next Leech Life crits, making a few omelets for Alakazam to scoop with his spoons. He just goes for Future Sight, and Fluorine gets another crit, which still isn't enough. And neither is the following Psybeam. But it doesn't really matter, as this Alakazam's moveset sucks. So one more Leech Life takes him out. The obvious Fire Flying type enters, and Fluorine suffers from Future Sight. But Iodine takes care of him with the help of Confusion. The obvious Water Flying type enters, and I switch into Haunter, which Alkali predicts, but gets hypnotized in return. Oxygen is then able to sweep easily through the sleeping Gyarados, even when I change my move strategy. Giovanni's back, and he's taunting me by leading with Nidorino this time. Goes for a Tail Whips on a super weak 2-hit Fury attack. But then I realize Surf is just better anyway, and Nidorino goes for a weak Poison Sting. I deal the very last bit with a double kick, or a single kick for that matter. The Kingslayer comes out, firing a fake out before exchanging tail whips. Nidoqueen kicks Kangaskhan's HP below half as he goes for another tail whip, so Nidoqueen can easily get a mate in 2. 2 kicks, that is. Avenging her dead husband. I switch her out for Sulfur on the Rhyhorn as he gets a 5-hit Rock Blast. Giga Drain takes that health back. His Nidoqueen came out and Sulfur paralyzed it, and she landed a crit body slam. I had to switch into Iodine on another critical hit, so one more switch into Fluorine. She uses Psybeam, as Nidoqueen changed it up a little bit with a Poison Sting. I switched into my own Nidoqueen on another critical hit body slam. Can you stop? Surf levels the playfield, and Nidoqueen goes back into Poison Sting, so I'm able to knock her out with another Surf. With all the story beats done, it's time for the gyms, starting with Koga. I lead with Fluorine and get a clean KO on the first coughing. Then paralyze the Muck, and after making Koga heal, Phosphorus finishes the job with double kick. Oh, well, I mean now she never mind, she missed. Finally, third time is the charm, I guess. She then drowns her frustration along with another coughing, and Haunter feasts on Weezing's dreams to transport me right to Sabrina. And here, I'll show you why exactly is Boron the MVP. Kadabra falls to a Twin Needle, and so does Ash's stepdad. And not even the Zam is able to outspeed my Speedy Wasp. Once the definitely Psychic type enters, I slow it down with a Spring Shot on a crit gust, and let Iodine finish the battle with a Wing Attack. I used my Ground type to surf, and get another team member in a silly little Tentacool named Hydrogen, which immediately evolved into a big silly Tentacool. I surfed to Cinnabar Island, this time not drowning my surf user, and got the 5% coughing in the Pokemon Mansion. I decided to double it, but not to give it to the next person. I went to fight Eggman and his fire type team, which went exactly the way you think. Surf, 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 and surf. Wow, way to kill the joke, Arcanine. And then Blaine healed him too, like come on. With my bid being over, I finally knocked out the silly dog and went to slaughter Giovanni's team next. Since he has a ground type team, there was no point in switching the lead. Hydrogen drowned the Rhyhorn, Ductrio, the other Rhyhorn, and Nidoqueen killed the bid again. Seriously, that's like 5 HP, why don't you fucking... After taking an Earthquake, Hydrogen was able to knock Nidoqueen's newly healed HP back down. And since he was faster, he finished the job the turn after. Nidoking was more polite and got one shot by Surf. And that's it for all the gyms. I fought Alkali again, the last time as a rival. And he still leads with his Walmart Swallow. I lead with Iodine, since I don't need him for the rest of this fight. They exchanged wing attacks for some chip damage, and when Pidgeot was low enough, I switched into Boron, because he had to be out when Alakazam entered. Twin Needle did Pidgeot in, and Alakazam suffered the same fate. Rhyhorn's takedown didn't do almost anything to Sulfur, and he just Giga Drained for the kill. Charizard's Flamethrower had almost no effect on Hydrogen, and a single Surf Grid made him sink like Titanic. Alkali still hasn't found a Leech Stone, so Execute didn't pose any trouble, with their Solar Beam getting countered by Sulfur before she dissolved them in her acid. Gyarados was last, and I missed my first turn Stun Spore, as he set up Rain, but next turn it hit and fully paralyzed him. Nitrogen then took a Hydro Pump in both of his faces before frying the Blue Shrimp, winning us the battle. I went through the boarding security and the Victory Road before deciding to gamble a bit using all of my remaining money on coins. after a short while, I got a jackpot, so I was able to buy a few TMs before getting another one, so I could buy a miracle seed. And so, naturally, I went back, and I know this might be viewed as glorifying the problem of gambling addiction, but it's not a problem when you're winning, baby! Anyway, I made my way to the Elite Four with all the items and TMs I needed, and went straight in. Lorelei is definitely the biggest issue for this sort of challenge with this sort of a team. So my toxic team will have to hold on through this one. Her lead is Dugong, so I lead with Sulfur and go for Giga Drain to knock the Sea Lion below half. And it just sets up Safeguard, so a second Giga Drain does the deed. It brings out the OG Pokemon Fusion, and Giga Drain does a huge chunk to it too, as Slowbro just sets up Amnesia, so Return is able to knock it out. Enter Lapras. Yeah, Giga Drain won't be enough for this defensive behemoth, and a single Ice Beam does over 100 to Sulfur and freezes her. But since the Safeguard is now over, I can bring out Hydrogen and Toxic the Lapras before it's able to confuse me. Weezing comes out and gets paralyzed by the first Body Slam. Then she gets fully paralyzed, not being able to set up Smokescreen. I switch Hydrogen back in and Lorelei heals her tanky Ace. I miss the next Toxic, but Surf doesn't really do anything to my tanky Calamari. The next Toxic hits, and Ice Beam freezes Hydrogen, but she immediately defrosts and hits Acid. Eventually, I decide to switch to Golbat on a Body Slam that paralyzes again. So I pivot right back to Hydrogen on one last Ice Beam, and Lapras falls. Cloyster gets poisoned and confused, and that leaves just Jinx. So I switch into Boron on an Ice Punch and knock her out with a Twin Needle. Next was Bruno and his super buff Onyxes, so Sulfur leads the way again. She drains the first snake, returns Hitmonchan's health to a third, and Rock Doom slows her down, but she doesn't let up, and drains the life out of the boxer too. Hitmonlee does decent damage with Mega Cape and survives return, so I switch into Iodine as Bruno heals him. Wing attack then makes Hitmonlee kick the bucket, and the ace Machamp enters. A single wing attack brings him into a kill range, and he misses Rock Tomb. Citrus Berry doesn't heal enough, and Machamp falls on the following turn. And the last Onyx gets drowned by Hydrogen for a second victory of the Elite Four. Now it was time to upgrade a few move pools. A silly little Ice Beam on Tentacruel, and Shadow Ball on Golbat, to have something for Agatha's pesky ghosts. Speaking of Agatha, she leads with Gengar, so I had to have Golbat locked and ready. The first Shadow Ball just barely misses a KO as Gengar double teams. I click Bite next turn as Agatha heals, but it misses. Thankfully, Shadow Ball hits the turn after and crits to take care of the first Gengar. Hunter doesn't really stand a chance against the Shadow Ball. Then the Ace Gengar enters and misses Hypnosis, as Shadow Ball brings him to a Citrus Berry range. Then he hits Hypnosis the turn after, so I switch into Nitrogen on the next Shadow Ball, but before she can attack, she gets slept as well. Phosphorus takes a Shadow Ball like it's nothing, and also gets slept. But the Nightmare wakes her up, and Surf brings Gengar to red. Then he misses a Hypnosis, and Bite cleans him off the field. Agatha's Golbat gets killed by Ice Beam, and Arbok's Iron Tail brings Nidoqueen to red, so she fires an EQ in return, winning us the battle against Agatha. Last is Lance, and his beast of a team. Gyarados is first, so I lead with Nitrogen, who just shocks me with a critical hit Shockwave off the bat, taking Gyarados down. The Fossil Bird is second, and I try to cheese it with Smokescreen, but he starts going for Ancient Powers, so I have to hope he doesn't get the Omni Boost. And then he goes for another one that doesn't boost either. Shockwave doesn't do much, so I switch into Hydrogen, who gets hit by a hard wing attack before the faux Aerodactyl misses AP, and Surf is able to take him out. A single Ice Beam is almost enough to defeat the Dragonair, but he hits a Thunder Wave, meaning he outspeeds next turn and hits a huge Hyper Beam before going down to Ice Beam. The second Dragonair goes for Hyper Beam right away, but Phosphorus crits him with Earthquake, bringing the Dragonite out last. Wing Attack does huge damage to Nidoqueen as she hits with a weak strength. Iodine gets hit surprisingly hard as well, so I switch into Sulfur as Dragonite goes for Outrage. Luckily, I hit a Stun Spore and Sulfur survives the next Outrage on just 2 HP. But I decide to go for Return to absorb the final Outrage hit, sacrificing Sulfur since it was the least risky play and I didn't need her for the champion anyway. Iodine comes back out as Dragonite gets confused. Wing Attack and a Confusion hit is enough to activate the berry, and then the same lucky combo is able to take out the mighty Cantonian Dragon, and Lance falls. Alkali makes his last stand, and my team is ready for the chemistry lesson. As always, his lead is Pidgeot, so I lead with Nitrogen, and they exchange the unmissable hits before Pidgeot dances with his feathers. But to be honest, it looks more like he got hit by lightning. He gets healed, so Nitrogen has to waste a couple more PP before the Big Bird wannabe falls. Alakazam barges in, and I know I need to sack, so Iodine flies in to take the Psychic hit, and makes room for Boron, who outspeeds. Hold on, no. He endures the Psychic like a mad lad and fires back with his signature move to kill Alakazam one more time. My favorite Ligma joke enters, so I go into Hydrogen on a Rock Tomb and then use his own move pool against him with Surf. The Eggplant comes out next, and I don't want to risk switching, so I go for Ice Beam, which freezes, but the tree defrosts and fires back with Egg Bomb, which misses. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. A second Ice Beam finishes him off, sending Gyarados out. He's splashing around, but found he can't contain Toxic. Phosphorus is here to tank his thrashing and show Gyarados her super weak strength, which confuses him. I then switch into Nitrogen, and Gyarados hits himself, before Alkali heals him and his Toxic. But Shockwave is enough for a 2-hit KO, so after a Dragon Rage, the non-dragon dies. His super buff non-dragon starter 9000 enters, and I know it's not worth switching, so I click Explosion just in case, and Charizard misses Fire Blast, allowing Nitrogen to blow up all over his sorry ass with the power of Gen 3 Explosion that crits. Alkali admits defeat, and that is the story of how I beat Pokemon LeafGreen with just poison types, without Venusaur. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider subscribing for more challenges like this one. With that said, my job here is done, so I'll see you next time.